It may seem like the rich and the successful have all of these secrets that are out there, but they're not secrets like you think. They're actually things that they just never tell anybody about. So let's talk about 6 things that the rich and successful people do that they tell absolutely nobody about. And I'll include the reasons why they do that as well, because having that insight will hopefully help you switch your mindset. And guess what? The best part about all this is you can do most of these things as well. So first up, they don't discuss money. Now, I'm going to caveat this with they don't discuss money with the average person, or they don't discuss money with folks who are not on kind of the same level or who aren't, basically invested the same exact way they are invested. There's a variety of reasons, from security, right, to all the way over here of just folks not understanding and getting the wrong impression of what's going on. It happens all the time, just simply with my group. Folks come in, they see a lot of folks with a lot of big portfolios. They have kind of perceptions about those folks until they get to know them a little bit better. Then they realize, hey, wait a second, that's not actually true at all. I thought wealthy people acted like this. This is actually how they act in real life. A lot of things and a lot of perceptions are out there that people have about rich people that are based on TV shows, social media, not based upon how actually 95% of the rich folks actually act. And so a lot of times you just want to avoid that. I know that's my case. Hey, I don't want any sort of attention. Obviously you don't want folks to know what I do have, what I don't have, for a variety of different reasons. And so that is something the rich absolutely keep quiet, is basically they don't talk about money at all unless they're talking to fellow investors, fellow business owners, things of that nature, because then you can have those better high-level discussions. Otherwise you end up with a lot of, hey, I want to do that too. Show me how to do that real fast and give me the secret to make millions. That's just generally, it's human nature. It's not right or wrong, but it's definitely something that when you reach those upper brackets of income and net worth and everything else, there are definitely questions that come more often than you want. And more importantly, you can't really have a great discussion about it either because of all the societal norms and all the ways that folks think rich folks are, when the reality is very, very much different. Number 2, they understand good advice is worth the money. Now, a lot of folks are surprised whenever I tell them, hey, I've spent money on masterminds before on all kinds of different things. They're like, really? Why would you do that? You're successful. Why do you need to go down that route? Well, that's one of the reasons why I'm successful, is because I'm willing to spend money in order to get knowledge, to learn something that I hadn't been able to unlock on my own, to basically go to that next level. It's not necessarily something you talk about or anything else of that nature. I mean, it's something that you go and you do, and you take care of your business and you move forward. And it's actually very, very common among high performers, highly successful people, high net worth individuals. All of them go to multiple masterminds. All of them are willing to, hey, I want to get involved with what that guy's involved with. Let me pick up the phone and call him and just say, hey, I want to go take you out to dinner. Sometimes that's all it is simply a dinner. Sometimes it's like, hey, I'll give you $10,000 to go out to dinner. Because when you understand the value of dollar and the value of knowledge in your business, you understand that $10,000 can unlock $1 million over here in 6 months. That right there is the connection that people who are wealthy tend to make that connection day and night. I know a lot of folks like, I just don't have 10 grand. Well, you could have 10 grand, but that gets back to the money discussion and how folks spend their money and everything else, as opposed to saving their money, investing their money, and a lot of other things of that nature. I know most folks don't have any issue buying that new car for, $20, $30, $40, $50,000. I forgot what the average used car price is now, but it's well over $10,000. But yet people won't spend that same money on a mastermind because the money's not guaranteed to turn into $100,000 over here. Therefore, I'll just buy that new car instead. That gives me that immediate dopamine hit, makes me feel better, makes me look like I'm successful. When you're around wealthy individuals who are highly successful, you understand they make that transaction 10 out of 10 times because they know it will pay off in the end. Sure, occasionally you can hit a dud. Occasionally you can hit one of those scam things, which, by the way, whenever somebody's promising you big, easy profits or anything else, that right there should send your radar up. That right there should scare you. When somebody's offering to show you the correct path in order to get there and sit down with you and go through that, that's a completely different scenario. If they're guaranteeing millions, for just a $5,000 investment, that right there is where you got to learn to delineate between the two. The problem is we all want fast and easy and guaranteed. And so that just lines you up, and that mentality and that thought process lines you up for getting scammed. On the flip side of that, whenever you're presented with opportunities to spend money in order to expand your knowledge base further, no guarantees, nothing else, just simply, hey, you're going to be in a room with other high-level individuals who are on the next level or on the level you want to be. When you get into that room, there's going to be knowledge drop that doesn't guarantee you anything, but it is going to make you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in the future. So you understand that equation very well. And the average person does not understand that equation at all. They only want it guaranteed and easy. And therefore that lines them up for the scams versus over here on the wealthy side. They know, man, if it sounds like that, it's not true at all. I want to be better. I want to improve. And I don't care if it takes me 3 years in order to make my money back on this. That's okay. That is part of the journey. So next up, they look understated. Now, I know social media skews everybody's view on this, and so do celebrities. Understand that's just this little tiny pocket of, millionaires over here, rich folks over here. The vast majority of them shun a lot of the luxury brands. They don't want anything to do with it because it's silly. It shows that, hey, actually to a lot of them, it screams, I'm actually upper middle class, and I'm trying to look rich. I'm trying to do that. Actually, I'm not liquid enough to spend $2 million on an investment. I may have $2 million worth of handbags, shoes, and a few cars, but I don't have $2 million liquid in order to invest and get out there and do those sorts of things. I know social media has clouded this one a lot, but you will notice when you get in the room with folks who are not celebrities, the actual, average millionaires out there, average high net worth individuals, and there'll be little signs here and there, but it's very, very understated, very, very subtle. It's actually biblical that you won't get bothered by essentially looking poor, and the poor are essentially going to stay poor because they're busy trying to look rich. So you end up with this dynamic that's in all sorts of, ancient proverbs, biblical proverbs, and everywhere else that hold true. And well, guess what? Unfortunately, the folks who aren't there are the ones trying to look rich. And of course, you have the wealthy folks over here who are trying to look understated. They don't tell anybody I got money. There's no need for it. It's not something you talk about. It's not something I'm sitting next to a guy at a restaurant and going, hey, did you know I'm worth $10 million? I'm worth $20 million. I'm worth $50 million. Like, when was the last time that happened? Outside of somebody bragging on social media, which probably means they're actually worth $10,000, not $10 million. But nonetheless, outside of those little niche areas, you'll never know that you might very well be standing in line right next to a billionaire. You'll never know because there will not be signs, because they are absolutely understated in the vast majority of things that they do. Number 4, they don't have expensive cars. This goes right along with the understated look. They don't typically have expensive cars. That is definitely not their daily driver for the most part. It is amazing to meet folks who are worth 100 million plus. And sure, they might very well have a garage with, your standard exotic cars and such. But the vast majority of those folks, when you go to meet them out for, a lunch meeting or something of that nature, they're showing up in a very average car. I think the average millionaire drives like a Toyota Corolla or a Toyota Camry or something like that, is like the most, bought or most sought after car for, multi-millionaires is a Toyota Camry. Think about that for just a second. Think about the mentality. Like I said, there's some folks, they absolutely get into cars, but for the most part, you see that a lot more in those, kind of upper middle class neighborhoods than you see it in the ultra wealthy neighborhoods. Again, I'm not saying some of them don't have toys. I'm not saying people don't make those things in the past, but when you start looking through their actual purchase history on their vehicles, and you start to see, wow, it actually looks less than a lot of other folks who are not worth 1/1000th of what they're worth. They can afford any car in the world, but yet they're not driving a Bugatti, right? They're not out there driving a Ferrari, a $400,000 Ferrari or a Lamborghini or whatever the case is out there. They just simply aren't doing that because they understand the value of their dollar. And more importantly, they're busy chasing big fish. For a lot of those folks, the thought process is, I'd much rather just know that I could buy any of those cars in cash anytime I want to versus actually buying that car and having it and dealing with the expense and the attention and everything else of that nature. It's a much more powerful feeling to know you can do anything you want, whenever you want, and buy whatever you want at any time that you want, and then have the self-discipline to simply not do it because you see it as completely unnecessary and a waste of your resources. Next up, they don't have expensive accessories. Now, this one kind of goes 2 different ways here. I can only speak to the guy side of the house here. So the vast majority of wealthy folks that I know, most of them have a nice watch because they bought it a long time ago. I will admit that there. But they don't own a box full of watches, which is apparently a thing right now. They don't own a lot of other expensive jewelry and just other accessories in life that you see. I don't know, fancy bag. I don't know. Guys are starting to wear a little, I don't know. They're like fanny packs, but I don't know what the heck you call them. Whatever, just some sort of a sling of some sort. There we go. satchel, wherever the heck you want to go with that. But they're not going to have the Louis Vuitton one. They're not going to have any of that sort of stuff because, again, it just falls right along with the theme that we've had all along. They're keeping their wealth to themselves, and they don't want to put anything out there outward saying, hey, rob me. Hey, ask me questions about this. Hey, come take this from me. And more importantly, they would rather spend that money on an investment. They'd much rather put that money towards another business. Whatever the case is, you will notice that a lot of them do not have a lot of the accessories. Now, of course, social media aside, anybody out there building a brand, obviously celebrities, stuff like that, understand it's completely different. But coming back to the average wealthy individual, it's just something that they simply don't do. And number 6, they're willing to buy back their time. When you get around wealthy folks, you start to understand how they do things and how they operate. And more importantly, they understand the value of their time. Now, there's a giant caveat to this. We'll talk about it here in just a second, but they understand how to value your time. That's why they have an assistant that does a lot of things for them. That's why they pay somebody to do their yard. That's why they pay a lot of folks to do a lot of different things, because they understand the value of their time. I know a lot of you guys are saying, hey, Luke, that's not new. Regular people can do that too. I would agree completely there. The difference is whenever I speak to the average individual and you see, hey, why do you have a housekeeper? That comes once a week, twice a week, whatever the case is. Why do you have somebody come and do your yard? What are you doing during that time? The vast majority of them are not starting a business or working on their business, right? They already work a regular job. They're home on the weekends. They could do all the work. They're doing it simply so they can have more leisure time. That is completely different. They understand the value in buying back their time so that way they can expand out their businesses further. So that way they can advance their wealth further. Now, yes, one of the side benefits of that is they absolutely have more time to obviously get that leisure time. But you'll find the vast majority of them, even when they're on their leisure time, a lot of times they're working as well, because it's simply how their mind works. They understand that I make $1,000 an hour. And so therefore, if I take this 8 hours off, that costs me $8,000. If I spend 3 hours working out there on my lawn, it costs me $3,000 to do that. I can pay somebody else $150, $200, $300, whatever the number is to do that. That's a good transaction right there. They're not just sitting down and watching Netflix while somebody else, does their yard. That's not how they view the transaction at all. So they understand the value of buying their time back. And if you want to be in that spot right there where you control your time, you can absolutely buy it back if you want, and you want to be in that power position and understand, hey, the people who are truly wealthy, they're not chasing all this crap. So therefore, I don't need all this crap either. Make sure you check out the pinned comment for the blacklist, where we allow everything for you step by step to retire or have financial freedom as quickly as in 1 year and on as little as $300,000. Just a pinned comment down there. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.